Wallonia is a tiny country, a tiny part of Belgium. Belgium is a tiny country. Wallonia is half the population from Singapore, so that gives you more or less the scale. But it's a country which was at the forefront of the Industrial Revolution because it had, I would say, good policy of Belgium at the time.
The Wallonian roots can never be really forgotten. You can't forget. It's like me trying to drop my accent. I've been trying many times. I can't. It's just who I am. So the roots are there. I can't cook without thinking of my mum preparing something, my dad shopping something else. It is there. It's in the genetic.
I'm actually what I would call a true Belgian, right? I mean, I'm born in Brussels. My mother is Wallonian, actually, and my father is Flemish, right? So I would call what I've the three roots of the country.
Having been living in Belgium, Wallonia, and in the city of Louvain-la-Neuve, where IBA is headquartered, you really get this sense of a lot of engineering, historically, research, innovation coming from there.
I'm Belgian, so everybody who's Belgian somehow loves Solvay or knows Solvay. There's a tradition around Solvay in Belgium. So Solvay is actually a Belgian company which started in 1863. And it all started after the founder himself, Ernest Solvay. And so in his garage, a little bit like Steve Jobs, and the two of them achieved what is Solvay today. I would say the whole vision was born between those two guys. And today it seems like even today a business that goes from starting to multinational within 20 years, you would believe that's quite remarkable.
Well, Swift is a sort of a strange animal. We've been there for about 45, 47 years. I would compare Swift to the heart of your body. It's actually money, the financial industry, in order to be able to working rightfully, needs to have financial flows moving from one place to another one. Today we have about 212 countries that are being connected to a network with about 12,000 clients. And also what is very much interesting is that those clients are no longer only banks. Actually, we're now really covering all the kind of type of institutions that you have in the financial industry.
I arrived in Singapore in 1999 and I ran a restaurant for about a year prior to opening Saint-Pierre. So Saint-Pierre is a 19 years old baby. It's a classical French restaurant with a lot of import from Asia. There are a lot of Asian element to the food, but the roots, the techniques remains very much traditional, very much French, because French cuisine is much more renowned than Belgian cuisine, internationally speaking at least. Saint-Pierre might be set aside simply because we've been, I would call us pioneer on the market. We've been here almost 20 years, so it makes us one of the long-standing and standalone restaurants.
IBA is a Belgian company. Was founded in 1986 by Yves Jongen and headquartered in Wallonia, Louvain-la-Neuve. Since then it had become a real, I would say, success story for Wallonia, being today worldwide operation, 2,000 people on the payroll, and being in different parts of the industry, therapeutic and diagnostic. So it has a very wide range as such, but in a very niche market.
In the 19th century, Wallonia was the most advanced part of Europe. You could say England was probably the number one, but Belgium was number two. But in the 70s, 80s, you know, Wallonia went through a difficult part of its life. All this became a rust belt. And today, I think, honestly, we have managed in Wallonia to reinvent ourselves in very different businesses.
You know, Belgium is a country that used to have raw materials before. Unfortunately, we don't have that anymore. So we just have to make our brain working, right? I mean, green energies. We don't have coal anymore, right, to producing our electricity, but we have many other assets.
I don't think anybody can take on Belgian beers. We have the best beer in the world. That's not even a question. The best chocolate in the world. That's not even a question. But what else do we have and what else can we bring? I remember we were talking about tradition and innovation in Europe and specifically in Wallonia. I think if there's something which specifically distinct us from the rest of Europe, probably the fact that we do have a history and therefore we pay attention and respect to tradition. It's essential.
Belgium as such has a big heritage in nuclear technologies. So hence, I guess all those tens and tens of years, and by now almost 100 years of nuclear innovation brought us there where we are today. And what is also very important, with particularly nuclear technology, focusing particularly on cancer, which is one of the major threats to life, or also cardiology these days more and more.
Chemistry is everywhere, you like it or not. And okay, I have this glass. Solvay soda ash is in the glass. It's in the water, you know, and here the tablecloth, I don't know if you can see it, is white, it's bleached, it's done with hydrogen peroxide, soaps. All these are products that you use every day. The people who think they can live without chemistry, it's just plain impossible. We can still live a comfortable life and move towards a sustainable society. And that's where Solvay is strongly committed to, and it's no more possible to buy 5, 6 mobile phones, 7, 8 cars, 2 or 3 LCD displays. This is not going to last forever.
Belgium and Wallonia and different part of my country, small country, that's what we are, right? And in the world that is thoroughly developing and growing, and obviously I'm tempted to compare this to countries like China or Japan. So therefore, a country like Belgium and regions like Wallonia have really to focus on specialties, right? That is something that Singapore also does very well, is making sure that education comes first, so that actually we can provide to the country, but also to many of the countries in the world, the right set of skills that people have to be successful.
I love the idea of bringing science into food, and specifically, I think, as you mentioned, I think Wallonia has been, again, pioneering into that idea. And that's why I'm a big advocate of science into food, not specifically to change or genetically modify products. It's not at all that. It's simply to understand better what we do. I also think in terms of innovations, it allows you to open your mind and think, okay, this technique was good. What else can we do? How can we do things?
Proton therapy is historically head and neck cancer, prostate cancer, which are the biggest subjects as of today in clinical use. And there, IBA, with being the first real clinically routine solution. Say in the biomedical sphere, obviously a big player, but we are playing in a niche, so in a global sense of Wallonia and GDP, it's obviously not at the same level as you would have with a company like Swift or so. We are clearly towards the world a big ambassador for Belgium, and as such, I believe, bring very good image back to Wallonia and Belgium as such.
I like the connections with Singapore as well, because somewhere, you know, more or less the same size. Of course, if you take Wallonia only, it's about, I think, 3.5 million inhabitants. But the country, Belgium, is about 10, Singapore is 6. And I would believe that we need to learn from each other, right?
Singapore has Chinese as dominant culture, but we've got Malays and Indians behind. Similarly, we have Walloon, we've got Flemish, we've got a little Germanic community as well. That's something which is very much putting us aligned. The fact that we are a small country is also something which helps us. You can cross Belgium pretty much without even realizing you've crossed it.
Singapore is very much focused on education and organization that really look at the future long term. They have ideas about what's going to be Singapore 5 to 10 years ago, and we believe that in Wallonia and in Belgium in more general term, that will be the challenge as well. How can you making sure that you put in place the infrastructures, the policies that make the region and the country sustainable on the long run?
And I like it here simply because it's summer all year round, which I can't claim for Wallonia. But having said that, I of course miss a lot of things as well. I miss a bit of the culture, I miss a walk in the field, I miss going to feed the cows and milk. It's a very different life. What keeps me here is simply the fact that it is a very good place to develop what you want to do. It's a place which is extremely active, extremely fast-paced, but we're also very well located. Of course, our geographical location, we are near Australia, we are pretty much in the center, if I can put it, of the region. I think there's still a lot of things which I can teach from my own background here, and I would say make it for a better tomorrow in the region.